I had a question about chapter 4 again, long response number 4 as well. And this refers to figure 4.5, which, or the axes that figure 4.5 have, or has. This is the figure 4.5 right above. I apologize, the scan didn't look so great, but good enough, I hope. Anyway, we have a question about what would Anil's indifference curve look like? What would his indifference curves look like if he cared just as much about Bela's consumption as his own? What if he derived utility only from the total of his and Bela's consumption? What would they look like if he derived utility only from Bela's consumption? For each of these cases, provide a real-world situation in which Anil might have these preferences, making sure to specify how Anil and Bela derived their payoffs. So here's the screencast I promised you. So let's tackle A. So here, Anil cares just as much about Bela's well-being as he or she does, as they do about their own. So this is, remember, Anil's share, or this is Bela's share. Anil's just won the lottery, 10,000 rupees. So we'll have thousands of rupees. Thousands of rupees. The feasible set is simply runs from 0 to 10,000 for each party, because there's 10,000 rupees total, and they could mix it in any combination between Anil and Bela. That's the feasible set. And now let's think about what things would look like, how things would look if Anil cared just as much about Bela. So in this case, the way I read that is that Anil gets happiness only if his or their well-being is matched by equal changes in Bela's well-being. And likewise, increases in Bela's well-being aren't useful to Anil unless they're matched also by increases in Anil's well-being. You haven't seen anything like this, but these are perfect complements, and we model them as L-shaped indifference curves. The best one that could be attained would be this I naught, where they each, if I have 1 rupee, I'm only happy if Bela, if I'm Anil, if Bela has 1 rupee, well, this kind of preference set we'd model as L-shaped indifference curves, I'm trying to put a pointer out there. I've got a new screencast. I guess I can't do it. If I get more, if I'm Anil, and Bela doesn't, my utility doesn't change. I'm not moving to a higher one. Likewise, if Bela is getting more, but I'm not, again, my utility doesn't change. But if we both move up together, then I'm happier. And of course, this is unfeasible. But remember, an infinity of indifference curve covering every point in this domain, Anil and Bela shares. So this is how those indifference curves would look. This would be the optimum. Now, another type of preference would be, I'm just not labeling carefully here, Anil and Bela, 10 to 10. Another type of indifference curve would be where I don't care particularly how I share, if I'm Anil, how I share with Bela. I just care about how much we together have. And so in that way, a rupee that Bela has is exactly a perfect substitute to a rupee I have. I just care about the total. In that case, the indifference curve, one indifference curve would actually coincide with the feasible set, because I don't care who has them. If it's a transfer between me and Bela, it doesn't make me any happier or less happy. And then, of course, there'd be these other indifference curves. It should have been a parallel line, slope -1, There'd be these other indifference curves that this one's unattainable, this one's feasible, but I'm not using all the rupees. This I not anywhere along here would give me equal well-being. So that's a little weird one too. Those are perfect substitutes. And then finally, this last one, again, I'm not going to label super carefully because I already did in that first panel. But here we have this straight line feasible set 10 to 10. And now I only care, I'm Anil, but I only get well-being from Bela's well-being. And in that case, the best I could do would be to give it all to Bela. And there'd be these other indifference curves. If I kept some, say, I'd be at an inferior outcome because I only care about what Bela has. So and then finally, if I could think about a situation that would make me happier, Bela would be even richer, but that's of course not on the feasible set if I only have 10,000 rupees. So that's what each of the different types of preferences look like. I'm going to try to back up and talk through what kind of real-world situations would give rise to these preference sets. I guess I can't back up without overriding what I've got. Again, I've got this this new screencast software I'm trying to figure out how to use. I'm going to just make a new screen for D. So we have perfect complements. Those are those L-shaped indifference curves. We have perfect substitutes. That's where those straight line indifference curves are. And then we have only care about Bela. For some reason I can't talk and spell at the same time. All right, well, what kinds of situations? If I were in a marriage where my wife and I had separate bank accounts, and we're living together, I could tell you that there's a saying, happy wife, happy life. Your happiness really depends on the happiness, equally on your happiness and the other person being happy. And so I'd want in that situation, if I got $10,000, ojalá, if I had $10,000, I'd probably split it equally, keep everybody equally happy. And so that they're the happiness of myself and my partner would be perfectly complementary. By a similar situation can result if we share a bank account. And here my household has one bank account, and so any money going in there is available to Bela or Lisa, in my case, to me. We it doesn't really matter whether it's Lisa's or mine. The household well-being depends on the size of the aggregate. So in that case, you're drawing your utility functions as just a function of the aggregate holdings of the household. If you're looking at how your utility changes with the well-being of me or my wife, it's just how big is the total pot would be the way I'd measure that. And then finally, what kind of situation would give rise to selfless preferences? And maybe some saint, Mother Teresa, I suppose, that only cares about she's dead, but she devoted her entire life to helping the sick in Calcutta. Amazing person. A parent that dives in front of a bus to throw their kid out of the way and gives up their own life. That's pretty selfless. It's pretty unusual, these situations where there's no regard taken to one's own well-being, and it's all about making sure the other person is happy. But we can think of examples. They're perhaps not all that common.